And we are off and running on this beautiful Saturday morning. The 49ers, they're off and running with a player who can run, a fast defensive tackle. Gracen Halton out of Oklahoma is the pick at number 107, the first of 5 scheduled picks the 49ers currently own. Of course, trades can still happen, so the 49ers may end up with a different amount, but this is the first pick of the day. Pass rushing defensive tackle, 13 sacks over the past 2 seasons. He runs a 4.82 40-yard dash, which is fast for a DT. Think in the mold of Osa Odighizuwa, lighter defensive tackle, somebody who specializes in getting after the quarterback. Last offseason, when the 49ers began their defensive renovation, they went after run stoppers. CJ West and Alfred Collins were both guys who were run defenders first, would have to be developed into pass rushers later. This time around, in this 2026 cycle, the 49ers are going pass rushers first, run defenders later. So they already filled out the run defense, a defensive tackle with the bigger bodies last year. Now they're going with the lighter bodies. Grayson Halton is 6'2", 293 pounds. Osa Odighizuwa, for comparison, is about 290 pounds. So about the same weight, same body type as Osa Odighizuwa, but the speed is something that definitely jumps off of the screen. As you can see here, let's go back to the relative athletics score. Doesn't have great agility numbers, but good explosion, good speed. You see the green here in the bottom left. You see the green here in the upper right. 4.82 at 293 pounds is elite, as the relative athletics score here tells you for Gracen Halton, a defensive tackle out of Oklahoma. Dane Brugler has one of the best lines that I've seen in The Beast about this guy. Sometimes you just go through some of the bullet points. They're funny, but he says, Gracen Halton closes like a banshee when he has a clear lane to the football. So again, you're a guy that plays with extremely high effort. He sniffs out the football, goes after it, had a forced fumble last year, knocked down a couple passes last year, and he returned the fumble for a touchdown. So he had a big man touchdown in 2025 for Oklahoma. One of the few guys in this draft, this is becoming more and more rare, who stayed with in college. Oklahoma from 2022 through 2025. He was a team captain for the Oklahoma Sooners. So now, we look at the personality types of the players that the 49ers have drafted so far, and we've got the list of guys that the 49ers have drafted. I got to get it up on the screen here in a second. Oh, here we have it. Let me take the screenshot, put it up there so you guys can see all the picks for San Francisco, and so we can go through how all of these different personality types fit into what the 49ers are looking for. But yesterday they drafted the receiver DeJon Stribling out of Ole Miss, the pass rusher Romello Height out of Texas Tech, and then the running back Kalen Black from the defending national champion Indiana Hoosiers. Now the 49ers move to Gracen Halton from Oklahoma, team captain for Oklahoma. But look at the guys yesterday, the top 2 picks, both sons of former Marines, DeJon Stribling and Romello Height. And, if you look at the scouting reports of both guys, the discipline instilled in them by their dads is something that they carry to their football careers now. And then Kalen Black, somebody who followed Curt Cignetti, who's known as one of the most intense coaches in college football. I would say maybe the best coach in college football, given what he's done with Indiana. He followed Curt Cignetti from James Madison to the defending national champs, the Indiana Hoosiers. So big time discipline across all 3 players. Now with a defensive tackle, with Gracen Halton as a team captain at Oklahoma, the 49ers are following the same type of theme. Let's take a look at the 49ers roster and how Gracen Halton is going to fit in for San Francisco. And I think that this is timely because I was working on the depth chart earlier today before this draft resumed. And, I was saying they're short 1 defensive tackle for a proper 4 defensive tackle rotation. They obviously have got the ends now, especially if everybody is healthy. The NASCAR package for the 49ers will include Nick Bosa. It'll include Romello Height, whom they drafted yesterday, a lighter defensive end, 239 pounds. It'll include Mykel Williams sliding inside, and Osa Odighizuwa as a 3-down player. He's going to be playing the run, and he's going to be in on those pass rushing downs as the 49ers' true defensive tackle. But if you look at base packages, you think about a rotation on game day, it's 4 defensive ends, 4 defensive tackles. So who's part of that? Well, we've got the ends up here. I could zoom in a little bit just to make this a little bit easier to see, but you've got Nick Bosa, and then down here with Mykel Williams, you've got Romello Height, obviously an end, but he's a pass rushing specialist end. You've got Keon White. A lot of pink here because those are guys coming off of surgeries. Sam Okawanu is part of this team as well. Now, the 49ers signed a veteran defensive lineman named Cam Sample, who has played all over the formation in his years with the Cincinnati Bengals. I had him temporarily listed under defensive tackle just to make sense of where the 49ers were, because I only saw 3 defensive tackles as locks for the 53-man roster. Alfred Collins, Osa Odighizuwa, CJ West. So I figured, okay, maybe Sample can be the 4th DT for the 49ers. But now with this 4th-round pick, and CJ West also went in the 4th round last year, it makes a whole heck of a lot more sense. We could put Sample as true defensive end depth here over on the side, and we can move this guy, Gracen Halton. Here's take a look at his relative athletic score again. We can put Gracen Halton in alongside CJ West as the 49ers' second wave defensive tackle. So let's get the font correctly sized. Let's get it all centered up. Let's give Gracen Halton the rookie treatment. And that means that he gets the green shade, and that is how the 49ers defensive line room looks right now. Pink means currently coming back from surgery. Yellow means foundational pillar. Of course, Nick Bosa, also a foundational pillar of this defense. In fact, why don't we just take off some of the injury shadings for the time being, just so we have a better understanding of how the 49ers are viewing the construction of this defensive line. We can give Nick Bosa his foundational pillar shade right now. So Bosa and Odighizuwa are the 49ers' 2 pillars. You've got one at defensive end, one at defensive tackle. A base situation will see Bosa and Mykel Williams on the edges. We'll see Alfred Collins and Osa Odighizuwa on the inside. Collins, of course, to run stopper. More of a 3 technique, but CJ West is more of the nose tackle. If you're going 5-man fronts with Raheem Morris, then maybe you see CJ West in there along with all these guys, so the 49ers can be really, really good against the run. Then you look at the pass rushing packages for San Francisco, and they were not good rushing the quarterback from the interior last year. They had only 56 combined pressures from their defensive tackles in 2025. Osa Odighizuwa alone put up 52 pressures for the Dallas Cowboys. And you could essentially consider Osa Odighizuwa a draft pick for the 49ers. They used their 3rd-round draft pick to trade for him during free agency, just a couple days after it opened in March. So Osa Odighizuwa brings basically the same amount of pressures that the 49ers were able to muster through a group of defensive tackles last year by himself to the 49ers. Then you look at Gracen Halton, who plays with his hair on fire. That's something that the 49ers obviously love. Plays fast, is athletic. You saw the relative athletic score, has a history of getting to the quarterback, of disrupting the quarterback with energy, 13 sacks over the past 2 years coming from the interior. Those are good numbers. Gracen Halton can be part of 49ers pass rushing waves, whereas West and Collins are your 2 run-stopping defensive tackles. Odighizuwa and Halton are your pass-rushing defensive tackles, and you are giving yourself, if you're the 49ers, versatility up front to mix and match different body types up front. Chris Kasarik in the past has loved moving defensive ends in to rush against guards. Mykel Williams and Keon White are cut from a similar cloth in that regard. He can continue doing that. He can also filter in Cam Sample, who's probably more of a depth piece given the fact that the 49ers have already drafted 2 defensive linemen now. But they can continue working the edge rushers in to defensive tackle alignments on pass rushing downs, or they can also put in true defensive tackles now since they've got Odighizuwa and Gracen Halton, both pass rush forward kind of guys, able to play on the inside. We've got from Pro Football SN This is a good site for analytics. Defensive tackle prospects who posted an 8% pressure rate or higher this past season. Caleb Proctor, who was picked just ahead of where the 49ers went, leads the way at 13.4%. Check out where the newest 49er, Gracen Halton, is. Right up here, second. I love the emoji that they used. It seems that Grayson Halton is the kind of guy that's got smoke coming out of his nose. 13% pressure rate in 2025. He is a bona fide pass rushing defensive tackle, and the 49ers have needed that. They were very deficient in this area last year. It's why they traded for Osa, and we know that Osa is a proven good player. We know that somebody like Grayson Halton can learn also now from Osa Odighizuwa, who's got that similar body type as Osa Odighizuwa. So San Francisco loading up on the defensive line. It makes a whole lot of sense. It's something that they promised that they would do. At this point now, the 49ers have 4 picks remaining, so they're halfway through the selection of 8. They could add more. They probably will, I would say, will probably stay put. I don't know. It's always possible that the 49ers run a package deal and they see something else in this draft, but I do believe that they have identified this middle part of the draft as the event's sweet spot. Here we can take a look, and I just got this open. This is from SF Data Niners. Good recap of what we've seen so far in the NFL draft. The big complaint so far has been that the 49ers, or at least up until today, had been that the 49ers had been reaching for picks, that they were selecting them well ahead of where the consensus big board, which is determined by people in the public and in the media with their mock drafts, had those players going. So, for example, Dejon Stribling was a player who was 91 on the big board, but the 49ers picked him at number 33, so 58 spots ahead of where the big board had him. Romello Height was a little bit higher up on the big board at 77. The 49ers picked him at 70, so that wasn't as big of a reach against the consensus. And then Kalen Black was a big reach against the consensus, plus 90. 49ers picked him at 90. He was 180 on the big board. Gracen Halton, this latest pick, this defensive tackle, this moves in the other direction. Big board ranking number 80, but he's slipped all the way down to number 107. So he fell to the 49ers as opposed to this being a reach for San Francisco. Now, no, people don't have a firm idea of who's going to be good and who's not. This is a crapshoot. That's why a lot of the reach stuff is really overrated. That's why I'm not going to sit here and hype up the fact that he fell 27 spots, but it does give you an idea of where Gracen Halton went versus the consensus of all the mock drafts around the league. We've got some Senior Bowl footage. We've got some good graphics here that Mike is feeding us on Gracen Halton. Let's take a look at some more of them. Here's a look at some of his advanced stats. Anytime I see a spider chart like this, I think that's it's solid because I'm seeing data points that are close to the extremes, which typically means positive production. It seems that his snaps per penalty, not great. That's the one weakness here. And a relatively high missed tackle rate. Now, this is something that I saw as well when I was watching a little bit of tape. He runs with his hair on fire, but it causes him to overshoot some angles and miss some tackles. So he's going to have to play a little bit more within himself if he wants to lower that number, especially in the NFL. But one thing about the league is that, maybe the 49ers are just going to want him to maintain that hair on fire play style and have their linebackers clean up behind him. You don't want a defensive lineman to lose too much aggressiveness because he's too focused on reading and reacting for tackles. You want him firing off the football. I think that's something that the 49ers love about Gracen Halton. But a lot of these pass rush grade percentiles, pressure rate, win rate, true pass set pressure rate, everything, this stuff is all in the upper quartile for Gracen Halton. So yes, he can get after the quarterback, and that is why the 49ers picked him. Got another chart here. What do we have here, Mike? This is the production versus athleticism chart. athleticism score for Gracen Halton and the production score over here on the right. Where do you want to be on this, Mike? Do you want to be in the bottom left? This is comparing interior defensive linemen since 2015. Or do you want to be, no, I'm assuming you want to be further to the right in terms of production. And guys who are available in this draft class this year, out of all those players, Grayson Halton actually scores really, really well. He's further over to the right. So the advanced metrics seem to like his production from that defensive tackle position. Yes, you want to be on the top right. All right, I'm going to go and play this video. This is from Trevor Sikkema. This is from the Senior Bowl. Let's take a look at some tape of Gracen Halton. Wow. Nice little spin move there. We can play that one more time. A little pre-snap shift and a little bit of strength with that spin move, right? When you watch it. Kind of throws that lineman off to the side. I don't know who that is, but that's nice. Grayson, I mean, definitely a bouncy defensive tackle. This is not a 320-plus pounder. This is somebody who's checking in at about 293 pounds, who can move, who's got some spryness to his step. I'm not sure if he's going to be an immovable force against the run, but that's why the 49ers did what they did last offseason. That's why they drafted the guys, the big rocks last offseason against the run in Alfred Collins and CJ West, so they can set themselves up for the pass rushing splurge this time around. I'm going to answer some questions about Gracen Halton, the 49ers pick to open up this Saturday. San Francisco next on the clock with pick number 127. Halton says that he only met with the 49ers once during the draft process and that he has no recollection of that meeting. So you could see that the 49ers have kept, I think, picks on their toes, that's for sure. Yesterday, one of the picks, I forgot which one it was, had not met with the 49ers at all. It definitely wasn't Romello Height. He thought that the 49ers were picking him, and he took a top 30 visit. But sometimes the 49ers scout a guy whom they pick a lot. Sometimes it just comes completely out of thin air because they want to keep their intentions concealed. Maybe they were surprised that Gracen Halton was there at pick number 107, but they're certainly happy that he was because he is the 49ers selection here. The fourth pick of this 2026 NFL draft for the 49ers. Fast defensive tackle. Let's answer some of your questions. Was the D. Winters trade worth it? Well, I mean, you're trading a guy who's not even a full 3-down player for a 5th-round draft pick. I think by the standard way of looking at what draft picks are worth and what veteran players are worth, that seems like run-of-the-mill value for D. Winters. I mean, we were saying on this show heading up into this NFL draft that D. Winters was probably the most likely 49er to be traded during the draft, and we said that a 5th-round pick would probably be the fair price. It turns out they were talking about drafting D. Winters, moving all the way back to the Osa Odighizuwa talks with the Dallas Cowboys. Speaking of that, I did discuss a little bit of this in my article up on the San Francisco Standard. It came out this morning. We talk about the 49ers drafting yet another running back in the 3rd round. And the track record has not been good. Now, it's funny because it seems that John Lynch was more behind this pick than Kyle Shanahan. And I wrote this up on the Standard. Lynch left January's Senior Bowl when he interviewed Black, convinced that he had a big-time candidate for the job. And perhaps it's significant that Lynch is Black's chief proponent, since the previously unfruitful swings at running back all seem to be more driven by Shanahan, who has occasionally joked about his spotty track record drafting the position. He was one of my favorite interviews, John Lynch said. I learned how hungry he is, what a bell cow he was for that program. Of course, he followed Curt Cignetti from Indiana to, or from James Madison to Indiana, and Cignetti, if he wants a player, I think you pay attention because he might be the best to do it right now in college football. 49ers now have 3 Indiana guys in their building. CJ West, who we just talked about, fellow defensive tackle, the Gracen Halton, Curtis Rourke, the quarterback, and of course the running back yesterday drafted to the 49ers, Kalen Black. But this show right here is about the first pick of Saturday, and that is Gracen Halton, defensive tackle from the University of Oklahoma. Thanks to Trevor Sikkema for that video. Credit to him. The 49ers now have 4 players aboard through this 2026 NFL draft, and still a long ways away from this being over. Few hours at least, and then undrafted free agency is going to happen. As of right now, if you look at the 49ers roster count, they've got 78 spots filled. So 4 more players in this draft will mean 82, and then they'll have 8 spots for undrafted free agents. I mean, we'll see what they are able to do with Brandon Ayuk this weekend. If nothing, we'll see if they decide to keep him on the roster at the cost, the opportunity cost of a roster spot. Of course, undrafted free agency and available players there will determine that. If the 49ers don't go for an offensive lineman over the course of this NFL draft, do they sign a veteran? Joel Bitonio, is that somebody San Francisco can go after? At this point, they've got a fairly stocked up defensive line room if health is assumed. Just not sure that you can assume health. So, I mean, the fact that they've added 2 defensive linemen makes it tougher to anticipate that they'll lower or raise their price for Joey Bosa. But on the offensive line, anything still appears possible given the fact they have said they've wanted to target a guard, but have not yet done that in this draft. All right. That is the 49ers' first pick of this Saturday in the 2026 draft. Gracen Halton, defensive tackle, fast defensive tackle out of the University of Oklahoma. Hit that subscribe button. We'll talk to you after the 49ers pick next.